the vision of some vacant mind. Oh, once I held a pony by its flying mane. It was like
Welcome to episode 2 of the podcast of podcasts. We are continuing to talk about the theories about teaching English literacy of Diane and McGuinness. Let's go.
as Xavier saw in the border of the sun, on the chambers of her guns, and tries to shoot.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Okay, so we're going to keep digging into the super cool ideas of Diane and McGuinness. To be honest, it's been really hard for me to decide where to go because to describe everything she said that I found fascinating would take like 2 hours. But today I figured that we're going to settle in on a little concept called phonemic awareness. Now, what is phonemic awareness? That's a good question. So if we recall from last time, phonemes are the small units of sound, small unit of sound that we use to construct our words, and particularly they're the units of sound that it's sort of like the logic that our alphabet is based around. Logic of our alphabet. As in, our letters, or sometimes two letters, represent single phonemes. And that's sort of the way English is written. So phonemic awareness is, let's see if we can get a different color for our definition. Phonemic awareness, let's define it as the ability to distinguish, kind of tell apart phonemes in words. So what does that sort of look like specifically? Well, let's take an example. Let's say I give you a word, let's pick the word great, right? Phonemic awareness means one's ability to pick apart each separate phoneme in this word. So let's put a little line between each one. We've got g, first phoneme, second phoneme, a, third phoneme, represented by these two letters. It's not important, but that's called a digraph. When there's two letters in English that represent a single phoneme, digraph. And I'm just going to write that over here. Digraph equals two letters, one phoneme. So that's kind of a bit tangential, but that's important to know also. So we got our digraph, and then our last one is T. So great. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I have just demonstrated phonemic awareness successfully. I've shown you that I can tell apart, I can tell that there's 4 separate phonemes in the word great. Now, I think for many people who are literate with the spelling and writing of English, we kind of take phonemic awareness for granted. And it's actually, a lot of McGuinness's research shows that it's actually the single biggest challenge faced by learners of the English language and has incredible explanatory power in terms of, finding people who are way behind their sort of reading level of their grade or whatever, and then explaining like where specifically are they struggling? Like, why can't they actually not read? Because it's easy to say someone can't read, but then that's not actually helpful for helping us understand why they can't read and what we can do about it. And very often the answer is that they actually aren't able to distinguish phonemes. It requires sort of this like sensitive act of hearing. It's very delicate to be able to tell them apart, and it takes some work, and it takes some help on the behalf of the teacher or the parent or whoever is instructing the learner. Excuse me. I'm not going to say too much about this, but it is, I think, just worth appreciating that phonemic awareness is very particular. It's a skill that's particularly important for learning the English language, and that different languages have different logics, they have different histories, they have different patterns, and they have different types of spelling codes, and those leads to different challenges. So, for example, like phonemic awareness is not a challenge at all that learners of Chinese or Japanese, for example, might face. There's a bunch of other challenges to learning those languages. It's not to say they're easier or harder than learning English. It's just that there's different challenges, and phonemic awareness isn't really one of them. And that's a whole other fascinating topic, but I won't really go into it today because I think it'll kind of take us away from our point. And our point is that phonemic awareness is a big challenge for English language learners. So the question is, what do we do about it? And again, I'm not going to say too much about this now, but it again just goes back to the key points we brought up in the first lecture. It's remembering that in English, we have 42 phonemes that students need to be aware of. Remember, it was 28 consonant phonemes and 14 vowel phonemes. And if you're getting confused at this point, remember phoneme is just a sound. One single small, put the small there, one small sound. So it's helping students learn there's 42 phonemes and beginning by teaching them to learn the most common spelling, e.g. the basic code is the most common spelling. Oh, I can't write right now. What's going on? Oh, I think I pressed something. Sorry, guys. I'm messing with my pen a little bit. There we go. Most common spelling of each phoneme. And that's always going to be with one or two letters. So, if we're teaching someone, like or that's how you'd spell a in a phoneme. So, in the teaching of phonemic awareness, it starts. This is again going back to what we were talking about last time, but it really starts orally. It starts with seeing if kids can actually break apart. Let's say a word, cat. Oh, can you say that word? Oh, yes, I can. Cat. Nice, I know that word. Great. Okay, how many sounds are there in cat? One? Cat. No, there's not one. And when you start teaching that there's actually ka. There's three. 1, 2, 3. And that's how you start. But that's how you start teaching phonemic awareness, and it's the main challenge faced by English learners and all sorts of people who get all sorts of diagnoses like dyslexic and can't never read and all sorts of stuff. But actually, they can't. They might just need help with their phonemic awareness. And that is all for today. Thank you, everyone. Let's check out some music.